does Mashiach ben Yosef have to come before Mashiach ben David? Because for you to chat what Mashiach ben David is going to be teaching you, you're going to first need Yosef to come attack in your Brit.
Is that another harmless Russia? Is that like representing the fight also? He's bastard.
Yes.
Can you talk about what that is?
What that is?
Why is it called that, and why is it never referred to
so much?
Yeah.
Well, armless, right? This is brought down in the Gemara. That it's the only really time that Mashiach ben Yosef is brought up in the Gemara. It's in Sechet Sukkah, and it says that he's going to die in battle. And in Kabbalah and Chassidut, they bring down, well, what's his battle with? It's with armless. So Rav Yitzchak Ginsburg said, what does that mean very simply and practically in our life? What is armless? What is this war? And he said, intermarriage. It's interesting. But now it makes a lot of sense. Think about what's happening in our generation. Every one of us has friends, family members, maybe a lot of them depending on how secular you grew up, right? Maybe you yourself. Hopefully you'll have some contemplation after that, Yosef.
I don't want to die.
Intermarriage, why would that be the final war? Because it has to do with the Brit. And Yosef dies in that war to save us.
Rebbe Nachman, that was like his main thing. He said, if I can just teach a Jew enough to make sure he just marries Jewish, like I felt like I did.
You know how many Orthodox rabbis say, why do you think that the Shoah is over? We have a Shoah that's worse than the Shoah of, when I'm Ashkenazi, so when I heard that, it's like cringeworthy. But when you really think about what are they saying? What did Hitler try to do? Annihilate the Jewish people, get rid of Judaism. Well, what happens automatically when you marry someone who's not Jewish and you have children? Effectively, for your kids, Judaism's over. That whole thing, right? That branch is gone. And if that just continues to increase and grow more and more and more, so this is a much more difficult challenge because the other one was explicit, where someone's saying, "I'm trying to kill you." In this case, you just have a very good-looking non-Jewish woman coming to you and saying, "I love you," and that's why it's so hard, and that's why Yosef dies in battle. Okay.
What does he die from? Or what is the death?
what's harmless?
What age did the Arizal die?
38.
38. What age did Rebbe Nachman die?
38 and a half.
What day did what year did the Ramchal die?
38.
It was 38. 38. Why are they all dying at that age? Why are they all dying so young? The Arizal said, I want you, when you get to the tefillah, the bracha, Abonei Yerushalayim, to pray that Mashiach ben Yosef should live. And his students heard from him explicitly that the Arizal said that I am the Mashiach ben Yosef of this generation. Okay? He came to help Mitakin the Brit. Rebbe Nachman came, like he says in the second Torah of Likutey Moharan, there was a dream of one of his Chassidim, and he woke up and he sees a person with a huge sword, a very large man with a huge sword. And in the dream, he was frightened of this person, but for some reason in the dream, he decides to follow him. And he brings him to a house, and in this house, there's an old man, and there's a lot of these little versions of that very big sword. Okay? The chassid goes into the house, and the old man says, come, like in those Disney movies, come, young grasshopper, come check out all these little swords I have for you. Right? I have the Asian accent, got you involved. Okay, very good. Yes, wasn't a good one, it was a terrible one. Please, I'm so sorry for anybody listening. It was a ger in this, right? Okay, so, right, I only saw it from 80s movies, so please forgive me. But when he goes into this house, the old man says to him, you can have any of these little swords, as long as you know how to use it, and you're not covered by clouds. And as soon as he starts to say that, clouds just start to envelop him. And the old man says, get out of the house! Get out of the house! You're not ready for these swords. And he pushes him out. And he's heartbroken that he thought he was going to get one of these little swords. But the old man says to him, but if you keep going down the forest, you'll see a home. And in this home, there's the person who sharpens all these swords. But who knows if he'll let you in? He woke up from his dream terrified. And he thought to himself, oh my gosh, I have to tell Rebbe Nachman this dream. Bug out. So he starts going, and he's going to Breslov, but Rebbe Nachman had just moved to Breslov, so he actually didn't know where he lived there. And he's asking around for him, and everybody's saying to him, well, why do you want to know? Who do you want to know? Why do you want to know where he lives? And he had traveled so long to get to him, and he was so heartbroken, and nobody's telling him where he is, because there was a big controversy around him. And then finally he found out where Rebbe Nachman's house was. And he sits outside his house, and he knocks on the door. And he knocks and knocks and knocks and knocks, and he hears through the door, Shmuel Isaac, I'm sorry, I can't let you in. And he sits there and he just starts crying, because for then a trip took weeks, maybe a month, in the freezing cold of Ukraine, and he was already very poor. And now his rabbi is telling him, I'm sorry, I can't let you in. And he's crying and he's crying. And then he hears through the door after an hour of this, Rebbe Nachman saying through the door, didn't they tell you, who knows if he'll let you in? And he goes, oh my gosh, he's the master sharpener. What is the sharpening of the sword? The sword your Brit. Who sharpens your sword? Mashiach ben Yosef, the tzaddik of the generation. That's his whole thing. Yosef sharpens your Brit. Okay? Why is Rebbe Nachman constantly hearkening on this point? Because he says, I also want you to have Chokhmah and Bina. But you don't get it through intellectual musing. You get it through making yourself a kli. This knowledge is not knowledge of your own. It's not knowledge of your brain. It's knowledge of God. It doesn't fit into your brain. It's not a natural thing at all. So how do you experience something which transcends your intellect? Through the birth. And with this, we are going to finish the lesson. Azaya mochin shelo b'shleimut. Then his mochin are whole. V'yachol avin dibur shel tzaddik, and he's able to truly understand the word of the tzaddik. Kafia tikkun, according to the tikkun shel kol echad, of each person. That's what we were saying before. According to his level of tikkun in this area. Kach hu hasagato. Thus is his apprehension. Does anybody have any questions from tonight's lesson? Any questions? Any statements? Yeah.
We said that we're not supposed to try to have malchus in our life. Like we're not supposed to think that we're in control all the time.
Right.
In Shmirat Brit, we're supposed to try to have control. Is first of all why? Second of all, why dafka there? And second of all, is there any other aspects where we're supposed to have control over our life?
Yeah.
Which doesn't
Align.
Leave nagesh with what we said that we're not supposed to have malchut
Right.
in our life. So
Right. So So here's the thing. When I said that the whole idea of malchut is that you don't have control. Hashem is the one who's in control. That's in regard to the outcome and events of your life. Meaning what happens around you is not in your control. But in terms of you and your malchut, which is the very beginning of contact with your soul, is the opposite message, which is that you're responsible, that you are in control. And lest you think that you're not, because that's been your experience your whole life, the Torah is coming to teach you that you really are. Okay? Now, the Gemara also says that a person would not be able to overcome his Yetzer Hara if not that Hashem helps you. So again, it's like this weird dialectic where on the one hand, I'm supposedly responsible for everything, but if Hashem never helped me, I would never be able to actually do any of the things that Hashem wants me to. They're both true, okay? But for us, in terms of Malchut, the idea that the Torah is trying to teach you is that your whole life you spent trying to control events, right? You wanted to get the best job, you wanted to go to the best college, you wanted to get the hottest girl, right? You're trying to make all these things happen for you. That's called you don't realize that there's God. And so you know what happens when you don't feel like someone's taking care of you? What does a person do?
You gotta take care of it.
I have to take care of myself. The whole idea of the Torah is to come to tell you you're being taken care of. So now, what does that free me up to do? The actual thing that I have control over, myself. Because as long as I'm trying to control everyone and everything around me, I never get to actually control the one thing I have control over, it, which is myself. There was a very successful person, Jewish person, religious person, and he was just like matzliach in everything that he did. He was successful in everything that he did. And people came up to him and they said, can you tell me like in a snapshot, if you had to say one, good Gedalia Fenster line, something I could take with me and like, this is what makes you successful. He said very, very simply, whatever I can do, I do. And whatever I can't do, I don't spend one moment investing my time or energy into. Whatever is in my ability to achieve, I give everything I have. And whatever is not within my capacity to do, I actively, proactively make sure that I don't spend 1 second being busy with. So what does that mean for us practically in our life? We don't have control of the outcomes of our life. The only thing we have control of is our process. That's your malchut. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Your eyebrow has a question? No? Any questions? Nothing? You have no questions?
I don't know how to ask it. I don't know how to formulate it, but about the story with the shark and the sword.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to think about it. I have to think about my question. I don't know.
You want to know if you can get these swords at Walmart?
How do you defeat the clouds? I mean, Rebbe Nachman didn't let him in. Why didn't he let him in?
Oh, Rebbe Nachman wasn't the old man in the dream.
He was.
At least I don't think.
He was the one in the house at the end of the road.
Yeah, and he did let Shmuel Isaac in the end.
Oh, he did.
And then he taught him this whole lesson. The second lesson, Likutey Moharan. And what does he say there? How do you talk in the birth?
Tefillah.
No.
Tzedek.
Tzedakah.
Tzedakah.
Oh.
Why does he say giving tzedakah rectifies your bread? Because what is like, if you get beyond like the whole, it's not a good thing. What is actually at the core of why it's not good? What does the Torah deem not good? What does Hashem say is not good? Misusing potential. The whole idea of the world is called creation. Everything that Hashem gives you is to create new, better realities. So when you have the ability to do so and you don't, that's called wasted potential. Now, where does that reach its apex? Within seed. Because what's the greatest potential you have? To literally create a new human life, right? But this goes for everything. If you think about it, why is mixing breeds usher? Why are you not allowed to mix breeds? Why can't a horse and a donkey, why are you not allowed to have them?
Because they can't reproduce.
Because then that child can't reproduce anymore. It's a mule, and mules can't reproduce. So then why does that matter? Because that is the opposite of the point of creation. The point is that in every area of your life, you should be reproducing. You should be taking the potential that Hashem gives you and utilizing it to actualize it in every area of your life. In your relationship with your spouse, as a father, at work, in your learning, in your davening, in your relationship with Hashem. Hashem is giving us kochot, potential, and He says, you go take it and take advantage. When you do, that's called tov. Everything that the Torah deems ra is really the opposite of that. Why is Hashem saying that homosexuality, the act of it, not the actual being it, right? There's no isser in the Torah of liking or being attracted to men. The isser in the Torah is about having relations with men. Why does it seem like the Torah says Hashem doesn't like it? Very, very simple. Because it doesn't give birth to anything.
then why is there all types of isurim about like you can't have a relation with your
Sister, grandmother,
uncle,
mom,
etc. Like stuff like relations that can produce.
Yeah.
Why is it from the Torah? Why is it a Isur Torah?
Did you learn anything about genetics in school?
Actually,
Okay, good. Baruch Hashem, thank God. Don't get into it. I'm just going to tell you just one bekitzer. The closer related you are to the people that you have relations with, the less healthy your child is.
and why is it a Isur Torah? Why is it a Isur Torah?
Because you're supposed to be not just reproducing, but you're trying to give yourself to reproduce quality thing.
Yeah, of course, but it's not like there's nothing coming out. There's something coming out.
Hashem doesn't just want you coming out with stuff. He wants you to make the most. Make the most.
Yeah, I like that, but that means I should go find myself like a Sri Lankan, what's it called,
It's too late.
lady in I'm sorry, it's there too late.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The-
so I should go find
no.
myself the greatest in gene pool
The
and
point,
bring it in, I don't know.
the point that I'm trying to make is, first of all, I'm simplifying it, but there's more elements to it. I'm trying to help you conceive of sexuality from the Torah's perspective in a different way. Not just like Hashem says He doesn't like it, or it's not good for you, or it's like, why is it such a big isser? I'm just trying to like show you at a very baseline level, what is it that Hashem wants from us? And you'll see that the Torah says it over and over again that that's good. And why is it that Hashem says that certain things are not good? And I'm telling you that this is the common thread that's in there,
Okay.
right? Why is the tzaddik so revered by Hashem? Because the tzaddik is giving birth to souls. He is creating human beings, right? Rebbe Nachman says that as long as a Jew is not conscious of God, he's not called Adam. He's not called man. Why? Because the Aleph in the beginning of the word Adam, Aleph represents one, right? It's Gematria 1. If you take the Aleph and you split it into its constituent letters, it's a Yud, Yud, and a Vav. Gematria 26, Hashem. If you take the actual Aleph and you spell out the three letters that you spell Aleph with, you have Aleph, Lamed, Pei. What's the Gematria of Aleph, a Lamed, and a Pei?
111?
111. 111. The whole Aleph represents oneness, Hashem's oneness. Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hashem, right? It's consciousness of God. What happens when you take Adam and you take away the Aleph? What do you have left? Dam, just blood, flesh. That's not called man. To be man, you have to have Dam, be a human being, but you also need to have God consciousness. The whole idea of the tzaddik Rebbe Nachman brings in the 7th Torah and Tinyana is to make Jews into Adam, conscious men. Okay? So that's the whole point. This is what we're trying to do, to make the most, okay?
What
Yeah.
does it mean that the tzaddik sharpens your wrist?
So if you,
Sounds painful.
now, so I'll tell you, I'll be like as straight up with you as possible, and I'm trying to be as like sensitive as possible, and also like, I don't want to, say, but for the sake of the people here, I know that I may look a little bit different than like maybe you guys, but if you look at a picture of me 10 years ago, I look exactly like you guys, okay? My kippah was a little bit smaller, though. It was a little bit like, more like this. My wife knitted for me. And also I was like wearing a tank top and, trying to show off these like, for a Jew, maybe it was bigger, but like in relationship to the world, probably smaller, those type of guns. I struggled with the Brit more than any person that I know. And even to this day that I've had now, Baruch Hashem, which is like unbelievable, hundreds and hundreds of students, I still haven't heard a person who struggled worse than I did. So, how did that change? And I could swear on my life, and I mean it. If not for Rebbe Nachman, I would never have been able to become Shmir with the Brit. Ever. And I'm not saying it because I'm like in the club or I got put in the call. I'm telling you, like, I know myself. The degree to which I struggled when I even tried working on it, when I put fences up, when I did this, when I did that. Now, if you look at Breslovers, a lot of times you'll notice they come from backgrounds that would make them most susceptible to being least likely to be able to be Shmir to Brit. And yet when you go to Uman, you see a lot of people there who were in gangs and who were in like club promotion, and they were even like in the most like volatile, sexual, predatorial, whatever, and somehow they have light shining out of their face and they're the biggest tzaddikim that you know. You ask any one of them how they got like that. Every single one of them is going to tell you without blinking an eye, Rebbe Nachman of Breslov. Why is every lesson dealing with Tikkun Brit? Because he is the sword sharpener. The more that you learn his teachings, the more you practice his advice, the more you attach yourself to him, over time, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, even if you feel like you haven't made progress over days or weeks or months or years, I promise you he is sharpening your sword. And one day you will break through. And you will know that there was nobody capable of getting you to that point except for Rebbe Nachman of Breslov. That's the answer.
Can you just explain the mashal of the clouds? Like, how does the sword defeat the clouds?
Right. So in this case, I didn't get to the end. So how do you rectify something? You rectify it by doing the exact opposite. If we're saying that Pagama Brit, what is it really? It's wasted seed. But now that we know it's not just wasted seed, I masturbated. We're saying wasted seed means wasted potential, right? Do we have a mitzvah where Hashem says, I give you potential and I want you to use it properly? What is that called? A physical mitzvah. Okay, good, puravu, very good. But puravu you can only do every 2 weeks with your wife. And if she's pregnant, then you have 9 months without. And then you have time out after that. So that sounds like if I wasted seed, let's say 1,000,000 times, and I'm being on like the lower side of it. So I'm going to have Bezrat Hashem, how many kids with my wife? So I rectified 7 versus the 1,000,000. Is there anything that Hashem is telling me to do as much, as constantly, as fruitfully as possible?
You have to pray.
Pray, very good.
Tzedakah.
Tzedakah. Tzedakah. What is tzedakah? Tzedakah is the literal opposite. Hashem gives you seed, meaning money, zera, which what is money? Money really gives you a potential.
Esther is kind of white.
Right? Yes? Very good. Always, it's always white. Always white. Always white by Noam. That will be the name of your new podcast, by the way. Always white by Noam.
Sure, I'll change my name just so.
No, it's good, it's good. Always white by Noam. Don't forget I told you that when you make $1 million and everybody hates you. Okay, so what is tzedakah? Tzedakah is literally physical potential, seed. Just like seed that you have down here. And now Hashem says, give it to people who need it. What is that called? It's called the complete opposite of Pagama Brit. I'm taking my seed and I'm using it in a positive way. That's called Tikkun HaBrit. Rebbe Nachman says every single coin that you give, you're metakening again and again and again and again and again and again. Rebbe Nachman says, what is the main kavanah I should have when I go to work, when I try to make money? Rebbe Nachman says the highest of all kavanot, and he knew all of them. It's not like, when you hear, you're going to be like, oh, that sounds pretty basic, that makes sense. It's like, no, he's telling you, I know all of the kavanot of the Arizal, and I have reached up to the highest of places. I'm telling you, this is actually the highest kavanah you can have. I want to make as much money as possible, to give as much tzedakah as possible. That is what Rebbe Nachman says you should say when you leave your house every day when you go to work. I want to give as much tzedakah as possible. Why? Because the Geula comes through Tikkun HaBrit. The Arizal says the whole reason we were in Mitzrayim for 400 years, we're supposed to be 400 years, is for Tikkun HaBrit. Why? Because Adam HaRishon was separated from his wife for 130 years, and that is where this female person called Lily comes on the scene. She causes Adam, the Gemara actually brings this down, to waste seed during that 130 years. Those 130 years of wasted seed needs tikkun. So it becomes reincarnated in the generation of the flood. And they're not able to. That's why they're struggling so much. And that's why it's a flood. And they come back again in the time of the haflaga, the dispersion, the Rizal says. And again, they're not able to. They have to reincarnate again. How do they get reincarnated the next time? Am Yisrael. Oh my gosh, that's us? Why did he make that us? Because you have the ability to fix what has been broken since the beginning. How do you fix it? He sends us down to Mitzrayim. We are confounded by all 70 of this koach to make us pagama brit, and we actually have in our ability, like it says, the Jewish people, the pasuk says, are kulam tzadikim. What makes us tzadikim is that we can literally do this. And it doesn't matter what our experience has been, it doesn't matter how many times we failed. If you're a Jew, it means you can do this. That's what it means. Okay? And Rebbe Nachman brings this down, and then the Rizal says that the entire exile is the exile of Das. Knowledge of God is in exile. That's why when Mashiach comes, it's the revelation of Das. But how do you get Das? How did we get Matan Torah? Rebbe Nachman says we first had to go down to Mitzrayim, meaning you need to be tested in the Brit at the highest of levels. Through being able to work on it, hold on to the one who achieved it at the highest of levels, learn from him. Practice his advice every single step. Tzedakah that you give. Tikkun abrit, tikkun abrit, tikkun abrit. Okay? Good? Everybody have an amazing Shabbos. Chodesh Tov. Shvat Chodesh Av. So you know what that means? Time to start over again. Start over again. Start over again. Rebbe Nachman says you got to do it every day. But we finally have a day, mamash. It's called starting over. Really, be'emet, start over. Highly encourage anybody here. The best way to start over is to go to the Kivrei Tzadikim the day before Rosh Chodesh. Go to Meron to be by the Rashbi. Go to the Arizal in Tzvat. And mamish, start over from the beginning. Just start over entirely. What would you do if you were just born? Go to these places and mamish, pour your heart out to God. Best, most powerful way you could start over, go into Rosh Chodesh Av, and Chazal teach that even though the worst day in history, Tisha B'Av, is the day when everything was destroyed, to that degree everything can be fixed. And therefore they said the Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. Bezrat Hashem, that the Mashiach should be born on Tisha B'Av. This class should be a refuah shlema for Naomi, Esther, Bat Hila, Nachana, and a Yeshua for Tehila, Rivka, Bat Elka, Devorah, Daniel, Ben Tehila, Rivka, Benjamin, Ben Tehila, Rivka, refuah shlema for Avram, Ben Sarah, Esther, for Ben Zion, Ben Shulamit, for Sason, Ben Bracha, for Liora, Chen, Bat Mazal, for Linor, Bat Liora, Chen, for David Yisrael, Ben Shama, Shoshana, for Yaakov, Ben Shama, Shoshana. Anybody else want yeah?
Shmuel ben Chaim,
Shlomo ben Chaim.
Shmuel ben Chaim.
Shmuel ben Chaim, refuah shlema.
Moria,
Moria, Bat, Karmit, Chen. Anybody else? Yisrael ben Shendel. Anybody else? Tov.